historic vote by the House Judiciary Committee created a commission that could ultimately result in nationwide reparations for the descendants of slaves. Some cities are now waiting for the federal government to act and are doing it alone. Usha Qureshi shows what a city in Illinois has done and whether its model is likely to become a national one.
I think a lot of people have misconceptions of what reparations really are.
Daniel Featherson spends his afternoon hitting the pavement and connecting with his community.
Things are never perfect when they start, but I want us to know how important it is to really keep a positive attitude and move in the right direction.
It's a community he's passionate about, yet he realizes it's also a community that needed a change.
A lot of African Americans have moved out of Evanston because they believed that Evanston didn't care or Evanston wanted to push them out. And I think this is something that will kind of, do a 180 on that.
The Chicago suburb is the first in the nation to create a reparations program for its black residents in the form of a $25,000 home improvement credit for those who suffered from discriminatory housing policies. The city is confronting the historical wealth and opportunity gaps African Americans here have faced.
We have a city that is, majority white, a city government that is majority white, taking seriously these claims about intergenerational inequalities.
Alvin Tillery is a professor at Northwestern University. He describes the situation in Evanston as a city trying to make amends for redlining its residents.
Corralling blacks into a segregated neighborhood and then collaborating with banks and developers and real estate agents to devalue the property in those neighborhoods.
While Evanston has come up with their own plan, there are questions as to whether or not a national plan like the new commission in Washington might draft can realistically work. The federal government has tried reparations before. In 1946, Congress created the Indian Claims Act. The government saw it as a way to thank Native Americans for their service in World War II and also make up for forcing them off their homelands. The commission paid out about $1.3 billion by 1978, less than $1,000 for each Native American living in the U.S. at the time.
But that money didn't go to individuals. It was dispersed to different tribal corporations and organizations. The Native communities very often did not get to control how that funding was used.
In the 1980s, the American government tried again. The Civil Liberties Act of 1988 offered $20,000 checks to more than 80,000 people. These checks were accompanied by a letter of apology for the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II.
They compensated them at the level of what their houses were worth in 1943. $20,000, not the $250,000 they would have been worth in San Francisco and Oakland and San Jose in 1988.
But Doug Flo, a professor at Washington University, says he thinks the action was a success.
The recipients saw it as a successful attempt to kind of not only make reparations for the economic loss, but also for the emotional kind of cost of such internment.
Both of these reparations were settled within a century's time. H.R. 40 attempts to remedy more than 400 years of enslavement and discrimination. Tillery says when it comes to slavery reparations, cash payouts just aren't realistic. But he does have another proposal.
We could give an income tax holiday to Black Americans that would do an incredible amount of good, and it would also stimulate the economy.
But are checks or tax breaks even the answer? Flo says maybe not.
It doesn't have to take the form of a check. We've seen a number of structural governmental policies that have helped particular groups find their way to saving money, to creating wealth, to building wealth, to buying property, to starting businesses, and sending their children or themselves to college.
No matter what the path forward, both gentlemen agree the discussion is just beginning, and it will take time and open minds.